The morning was deceptively peaceful in Cedar Ridge Estates, a suburban haven where brick homes stood in tidy rows, their shutters aligned, their lawns clipped to perfection. Sarah Bennett sipped her third coffee, the mug warm in her hands, as she stepped onto the porch with a rag and a bottle of glass cleaner. The windows didn't need scrubbing, but the sunlight revealed faint smudges she couldn't ignore. Her husband, James, was out front, kneeling by the curb, wrestling with a new mailbox. The old one was battered, a screw missing, and James had griped for weeks that it made their house look sloppy. Today, he'd finally hauled out his toolbox and a sleek, regulation-sized replacement. It was a simple task, mundane, the kind that should have gone unnoticed in a neighborhood obsessed with order. Cedar Ridge was a place where conformity reigned. American flags adorned porches, hedges were trimmed to precise heights, and the HOA's newsletter was treated like scripture. Sarah and James played along, they paid their dues, stowed their trash cans, kept the lawn pristine. Trouble wasn't their thing. But as Sarah polished a stubborn streak on the living room window, a faint smile forming as James muttered at the old post, the air shifted. A sound sliced through the suburban hum. A yell, sharp and raw, not frustration, but fear. Her rag froze against the glass. Her pulse spiked. She dropped the bottle and bolted through the house, sneakers pounding the tile, flinging the front door open with a force that shook the hinges. James wasn't at the mailbox anymore. He was pinned against their wrought iron gate, the one framing their modest lot. 3 strangers surrounded him. One pressed a knee into James's spine. Another twisted his arms behind his back like he was a felon. The third stood back, arms crossed, watching with the cold detachment of a man used to giving orders. They wore navy polos, a logo stitched in white, Community Safety Patrol. Not cops, not security, just 3 men who looked like they'd peaked on a high school football field and never let it go. Sarah's voice cut the air. "What the hell are you doing?" "That's my husband." They didn't turn. James groaned, his cheek mashed against the metal, fingers clenched. One man barked, non-compliance with HOA ordinance. Unauthorized modification. Another added, unsafe activity. "We're authorized to intervene." Sarah's chest tightened, a cold fury spreading like frost. This wasn't a misunderstanding. These men believed they had the right to manhandle her husband over a mailbox. She stepped forward, hands trembling. "You have no authority. Let him go." They ignored her. The gate creaked under James's weight, a sound that seared into her memory. They weren't police, no badges, no cruisers, just cheap polos and a plastic baton dangling from the leader's belt. He spat orders like he'd memorized them, his radio crackling with static. James didn't fight, he could barely breathe. Sarah shouted again, voice raw. "He's installing a mailbox." "A mailbox." The leader glanced at her, tone flat. 3 prior notices ignored. "This is corrective enforcement." Corrective enforcement. The words hit like a slap, absurd yet chilling in their conviction. The doorbell camera captured it all. James's restraint, Sarah's pleas, the men's smug confidence, their HOA logo gleaming in the sun. Neighbors' blinds twitched, but no one emerged. A garage door slid shut. Sarah's hands shook, not from fear, but from a dawning truth. No one was coming to stop this. The men moved too smoothly, their arrogance too refined. They'd done this before. "You're not cops," she said, voice low, steady now. "You don't get to touch him." They didn't flinch. The leader smirked, raising his baton slightly, as if her words were a bother. When the police finally arrived, the scene had shifted. The patrolman lounged under a neighbor's tree, sipping from a water bottle, chatting like they'd finished a routine call. James sat on the porch steps, clutching his ribs, blood trickling from his lip. His shirt was torn, eyes distant. Sarah stood beside him, arms crossed, watching the men like a predator. "They're HOA volunteers," an officer explained, almost apologetic. "This might be a civil matter." Sarah's jaw clenched. "Civil? They cracked his rib over a mailbox. The officer shrugged, unfazed, like it was old news. File a report. Talk to your HOA board. James coughed, wincing, and Sarah saw his hand tremble as he reached for water. That moment, his quiet pain, the officer's indifference, snapped something inside her. She didn't want fairness anymore. She wanted them to never touch him again. Days bled into darkness. James barely left the couch, his ribs aching with every breath. The violation lingered, heavier than the bruises. Sarah stopped leaving the house, stopped answering calls. The footage spread through the neighborhood chat, then beyond, captured not just by their camera but by a neighbor's shaky phone. No one checked on them. Neighbors avoided eye contact, their silence deafening. Sarah replayed the scene at night, James's head against the gate, the leader's blank stare. She didn't sleep. Then, on Tuesday, a knock. Not a delivery, not a friend, deliberate, heavy. Sarah cracked the door. Two of the men stood there, same polos, same smugness. One held a clipboard, the other a rolled-up form. "Good morning," the leader said, smooth as silk. "Your fence violates section." Sarah slammed the door, hands steady, jaw locked. She stood there, breathing slowly, feeling something solidify inside her. Not rage, but resolve. They didn't knock again, but she knew they'd return. Late Thursday, she saw them through the blinds, two of them, filming her lawn, her driveway, the mailbox's shadow. No words, just phones raised, zooming in on nothing. A silent threat. James watched from the kitchen, gripping the counter, eyes hollow. One man caught Sarah's gaze through the window and smirked, lifting his phone to record her directly. The message was clear: "We own this." Sarah didn't blink. She closed the curtain, placed a hand on James's shoulder, and waited. That night, alone in the hallway, she opened the safe. The Glock 19 was cold, heavy, familiar. She didn't aim it, didn't need to. Its weight was enough. A vow to herself. Friday morning broke gray and still. Sarah was up before dawn, not pacing, just waiting. At 9:06, they came, three now. One with a measuring tape, one with a clipboard, one filming. They walked her lawn like it was theirs. Sarah moved without hesitation. She retrieved the Glock, checked it, and stepped onto the porch barefoot, gun low but firm, finger off the trigger, muzzle skyward. "Get off my property," she said, voice like iron. They turned, smirking. "This is an HOA inspection," the leader said, chuckling. "We have legal." The shot shattered the air. A single round fired skyward, sharp and deafening. Birds scattered. One man stumbled backward, nearly falling. Another dropped his clipboard. The leader froze, then bolted, not looking back. Sarah lowered the gun slightly, still not aiming. "Touch my husband again," she said, barely above a whisper, "and I swear to God." They scrambled, grabbing their gear, avoiding her gaze, and fled. By evening, the footage was everywhere. A neighbor had filmed it, posting with a caption, "You won't believe this." It spread, Facebook, Reddit, then news outlets. Headlines blared, "Georgia woman fires at fake HOA enforcers." Comments exploded, not mocking, but raging, sharing tales of HOA overreach. The HOA board panicked, dissolving the patrol in a hasty vote. Two men faced charges for impersonating law enforcement, thanks to a fake badge. James filed a civil suit, slow but steady. Neighbors began nodding at Sarah, some murmuring apologies. She didn't care. She wasn't a hero or a victim, she was the woman who'd stood on her porch and said enough. The mailbox stood firm, its black paint catching the morning sun. James heeled, reading on the porch again, his steps lighter. The Glock stayed in the safe, a silent guardian. Sarah slept deeply, not because the world was just, but because she'd claimed her ground. Neighbors spoke cautiously now. "You did what I couldn't," one said. She didn't need their words. She knew she was enough. And if anyone came again, she had 6 more rounds. They wouldn't dare test her twice. Cedar Ridge was quiet, the patrol gone, and Sarah's resolve ensured it would stay that way.